Oh, that's fine. It's whatever. Question. What kind of Benjamins is better? Benjamin Franklin? Benjamin Button?
Well, that's a good question, but there's basically two schools of thought on that.
False. Bears beats Benjamin Franklin.
What are you doing? What is happening? What is happening? Identity theft is no joke, Ben. Thousands of families suffer every single year.
Kirk?
Oh, real funny. Real fun. Kirk! Welcome to the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top four and
nothing more.
Kirk, here we are, man. It is episode 51. We are just about to 1 year to 52 stinking episodes of the Rushmore Show, man. This is exciting. And look, this month has been fantastic. We have started our Christmas celebration off watching some specials back 2 weeks ago with Francisco and Paul. Last week we had Randy and we were singing some songs together, man. It's just been a great celebration. And today we are in for a treat. We're in for the biggest gift of all. We're going to talk about our Rushmore of gifts, man. It is exciting. Kirk, how have you been feeling? I see, just like me, I've got my fireplace going. What's it feeling like out there in Georgia? Is it cold?
It's sweltering.
Yeah.
So I mentioned it yesterday. I said, what I've learned coming to Christmas here in Georgia is I'll never get a white Christmas. I'm only going to get a wet Christmas. Putting out the Christmas lights is torture. It's mud and mush and it's gross. But yeah, man, it is Christmas time.
Yes.
We are going to talk about Christmas gifts, Christmas presents. Andy, are you a gift guy?
Yeah, not really. They're fun. I like them. You know, I'm not turning things down.
Is it better to give or to receive?
I absolutely love giving gifts, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am the one who, I need you to open this right now. I want to see the face that you're going to make with all of this. Yeah. So I love giving gifts. That. Receiving gifts, sometimes to me, I don't know, there's this weird, awkward,
I feel it.
You know what I mean? There's a social awkwardness of opening a gift from someone, which I'll talk about later in my Rushmore. But yeah, so
speaking of gifts, I got some hot chocolate in one of my gifts from Canon. Right here, a little Grogu Baby Yoda mug like that. It's not making my Rushmore, but it is making the show. So there you go. Hey guys, stick around till the end. Stick around to the end. I know you guys kind of hang around. Usually I see you guys in the comments, I see in the analytics, and most of y'all hang out about to this time. And y'all are like, man, I saw the intro because we're freaking hilarious. You don't care about our opinions with our favorites on the Rushmore. So you're like, yeah, I'm done with that. I'll just post my 4. Don't do that this time. Stay until the end. Fast forward, check out who our guest is and what the message is we're bringing today. It is going to be a Merry Christmas here on the Rushmore Show, and we are so happy to have you. Andy, without further ado, we've got to jump into this because we've got to introduce our guest today.
Man, it's going to be a blast. Let's get into our Rushmore of gifts.
Let's get it.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose. And if you ever saw it.
All right, guys, here we go. Getting ready for our Rushmore of gifts. But you know what? We're going to bring a friend on. And believe it or not, the person we are about to introduce you to is not me. This is another person here with us on the Rushmore Show. Kirk, who do we have with us today?
Well, man, we're excited for this one. We when we first started the show, we kind of pegged a few people who we thought would be amazing to have on, and this is one of those names that just came out because of the irony of it all, the hilarity of it all. We're going to bring on a pastor, a worship pastor, a youth pastor, a guy that we have spent time at camp, conferences, you name it. And the very first time you ran into him, it was made to happen. It was like a stepbrother moment.
Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
I'm just going to introduce you to my good friend, Andy Ricketts.
And I'm going to introduce you to the person who is not me. Believe it or not, I'm going to introduce you, Ben Schmaltz, man. Welcome to the.
That's fine. That's
Benjamin.
fine, and it's whatever.
I don't know what we're doing
It's
right
whatever.
now.
It's whatever, man.
Super stoked to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, man. It's a
So,
blast. We
man.
knew we had to have you on here, man. Definitely.
For sure.
Dude, so good. So good. Hey, Ben.
Yep.
Man, glad to have you on. I see you've been watching for a little bit, at least subbed up, hanging out with us.
Yeah.
We are bringing you on, not because we really care about your gifts, right? I mean, the gifts
Right.
of the spirit, the gifts of the, no, we're not worried about that. But we want to hear what your best Christmas gifts are ever.
Yeah.
And then dude, we have a special time at the end. We're going to spend some time with the Ricketts brothers here and bring
That's
them on.
I love
I'm
it.
just kidding. We're gonna hang out with Andy and Ben, and we're gonna share something at the end that's really near and dear to our hearts. Kind of like if you saw our episode back in Easter, we spent a little time talking about the resurrection of Jesus, and what a better way. We couldn't have a Rushmore show. We wouldn't even have a Rushmore show if it wasn't for our testimonies and the best gift ever. And so make sure you hang out to the end. We have some really cool things to share with you. So,
Also, real quick, before we get into everything, you guys right now are looking at number 1, number 2, and number 3 in the Rushmore Fantasy League. Come on now.
so yeah,
What's happening?
Yeah.
The George.
So let's map this out.
TJ.
Ben has been leading the way from the beginning.
Dominating from the beginning. Dominating.
Is hauling
Is the
down.
word.
He is supporting us. He's running the show with Cooper Cup, taking off with the whole fantasy football deal.
That's
and
so
then
fast.
not only did
man.
Stafford go down, not only did the Rams decide to choke and on being a Super Bowl champion, not only did McVay, they're talking about him already being fired, but the best receiver in the league said, you know what, I don't even want to play for this team. I'm just going to call it quits this year and let Ezra know it's okay and we'll be all right. And once that happened, your team started to kind of stumble.
Dude, 3-4 losses in a row, something like that. And
yeah, and so
all downhill. So I'm one and done probably in the playoffs.
Oh, well.
Well, anyway, look, let's not belabor this. Let's not wait too long. We're gonna get into our Christmas gifts, and we're going to start, Ben, with you today. But before we start, or before you kind of unveil your Rosie, your number 4 on your Rushmore of Christmas gifts, what were you thinking? Like, what's the kind of the criteria? What was the thought process when you were thinking?
Yeah, so I'm a big Christmas guy. I've always loved Christmas, big family, growing up, love all that stuff. And so for me, it my mind immediately went back. I grew up in 86. I was born. So 90s is my childhood, mostly the late 80s, early 90s. And so I went there first. And I had probably 10 things that I could have chose from because I just remember every year pretty much. But then I was like, man, I have had some great Christmases outside of the 90s. I've been living longer than I want to admit, but I've been around. And so I just kind of went into it first. My first 3 are 90s, and then I got one that's not. And so I'm super excited, though. It's gonna be great. I
am totally on board for the 90s, man. I'm looking forward to it. So let's go ahead and get started. Your Rosie, your number 4. Where are you starting this off? This is that line in the same. Yeah. Nothing else makes it. Where'd you go?
So something about me is I love video games. I streamed video games for a little bit as my thing. And so I wanted to put all video game stuff on there. I was like, I can't do that. It's just boring. So I took number 4. I think the year was 91, which would have made me 5 years old. It was already out for 2 years, but we were late to the game, but that's okay. We got a Sega Genesis from my grandmother.
Yes.
We went over for Christmas at an aunt's house, and they gave all the other kids presents, and then when all the cousins and all those guys, and then when that was all said and done, Granny said, follow us out to the car, and she snuck us one more present. We opened up a Sega Genesis. She said, I don't want the other cousins to get mad because not everybody got a Sega. So we immediately knew, me and my brother, my older brother, knew we're the favorite. We're the favorite, of course. And we get a Sega Genesis with the Sonic the Hedgehog, the original. And I was awful at it because I was only 5, not good at video games, but I played the mess out of it. That first and second map could kill it. The rest of the game I never beat. But it's fun. Good memories there. Love the Sega Genesis. Genesis, and it's really probably what got me started being the video game nerd that I am today.
Yeah, man, I love the pick. I'm all on board for Sega Genesis. So I was going to ask you, and you said Sonic. That was your original, like, what you're thinking of. Like, to me, the Sega Genesis, and maybe it's just because I don't know. You're more in the gaming world than I am. I feel like it gets overlooked all the time as far as
I mean,
classic video games.
the Super Nintendo is just legendary, and it gets all the credit that it deserves. And I think more people actually bought into that. Sega was a second company coming in. You already had the NES. You came out with the SNES, and so people are already familiar with Nintendo. And so I think, got the Sega probably because it was a little more cheap. It was a little cheaper. We weren't real wealthy growing up, and so it was a little cheaper on granny's after having to buy for 18 other cousins. She also got this for us. So, man, what a blessing that was. But so for it just kind of, I mean, we had an NES, but this was like the new next generation,
right,
thing that came out, and we were super excited. I had all the buttons. We were like, oh, we got all these buttons. They're huge, and it was great, man. Just some good memories there on that 8-bit, Sonic the Hedgehog. It was wonderful.
Kirk, you're a little bit older than us. What are you thinking about the SNE or the Sega? Sorry, Sega Genesis.
Sega.
That's it.
Yeah, I never had a Genesis until I was in the military, and I went back and purchased one. I used to hang out at my buddy's house, Kevin's, and I was always my parents didn't like me hanging out over there because he was that kid that got like everything he wanted, and I'd always come back and be like, "Why's Kevin got this? Why's Kevin got that?" And he had a Genesis, and I remember going over there and Sonic, Altered Beast, Golden Axe back in those days, and just kind of really Last Battle, Strider. All those games were so freaking cool. I love the Genesis. I love I one thing I didn't like about the Genesis, and look, Ben, I almost called you Andy. Ben,
it's fine. I would answer.
Ben, I know you're a bit of a gamer. I love games. We've had the video game episodes. You may have seen those. And when I pick a system from here on out, I really am zoning in on that controller, right?
Yeah, sure.
And the controller for the Genesis is what always turned me off.
Yeah,
like it's kind of big and bulky.
It's bulky for sure,
and it only has the 3 big arcade-ish buttons, like
right.
really large. And it's not a terrible controller. It works perfect for that system.
Sure.
That's one of the reasons when PlayStation came out that, man, I really fell in love.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I fell in love with that controller. And then when I went to Xbox, I kind of felt like I was going back Genesis wide.
Right.
I didn't really nail into the Xbox too much, but that's just going there. I love the Genesis though. Genesis is a great system. It's an iconic system. It's a must-have type of system if you're a collector. So great pick.
Let's move, Kirk.
Moving on.
We're gonna go to yours, but man, Sega Genesis, love the pick, love where we're starting here. Kirk.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you kind of started with one. I agree with everything that Ben said. We're talking about gifts. We can go anywhere, man. I mean, I could talk about gifts. I've been a father for the last 20-ish years. 22 is how old McKenna is now. So 22 years. I've received so many amazing gifts from them. Been with my wife and married for 20 years. 21 years we've been together, 22 years we've been together, and then been married for 14 of that. So I mean, so many cool gifts from that. But when I'm thinking about Christmas, I'm thinking about like waking up that morning, wanting to see what Saint Nick dropped off at the house, going to go see what I mentioned it last week. One of the most important times of my childhood was about the 5 hours of wait time for all the family to come over on Christmas Eve, because our family was everybody showed up at my house and did Christmas Eve together, and then all of my sisters went to their in-laws for Christmas Day, right? And so everybody came to my house Christmas Eve. So those 4 or 5 hours waiting for everybody to show up, whether it's through traffic or whatever. And so those are the key moments of my childhood that I just really link on to when it comes to Christmas. Helping everybody bring those presents in. So all of my gifts are going to be presents from my childhood. And ironically, the way our family has always kind of done it is, the big gift, if you will, comes in the morning, Christmas Day, right? That big gift. And those are the gifts that, we're waiting to see. And so I'm going to go with all of them there. But I'm going to give you one. It's going to be a kind of a shocker, not a shocker, but it's the gift that I found actually before I was supposed to receive it. Let's just say that I found it before I actually was supposed to receive it. And I became smart of the whole system here. And so it is a very big one that's been stuck in my mind forever. And I love this thing so much. If you go back to the cartoon episode, I mentioned a little bit of this. I think it was in my Benjamins, but I'm going to go with a toy. It was called the Rhino, and it was a 18-wheeler that was run by Matt Tracker out of Mask. M-A-S-K, the cartoon Mask.
Okay.
And it was the big 18-wheeler. It was like, it was the it present, you know, and I got it. Matt Tracker, you get, I think the other guy's name was Bruce Sato. And man, this gift was like, it was the only thing I can remember just begging. I need to get it. And somehow or another, it found its way to me that Christmas morning. One of my favorite cartoons. If you don't know this show, it's kind of a Transformers meets G.I. Joe kind of in-betweener. Guys wear masks and they get in these really cool armored cars and trucks and fight the bad guys that kind of do the same thing. So anyways, that is going to be my start. It is a really cool little gift. And let me just tell you this. I found it. Let me tell you how I found it. So my mom, she asked me to go get a blanket. She's like, son, can you go get me a blanket? Well, back then they kept my blankets all in this specific room, and my crib from when I was a kid, my dad built it and he changed it into this place to store blankets. Right. Well, the blanket that she wanted was on top, but it was stuck in the door. And I pulled it open and I found the treasure trove.
Oh, no.
All behind the blankets. And I was like,
That's
oh,
wonderful.
I'm just going to be quiet. I'm going to be quiet. Yeah.
Smart.
And then it was amazing.
Did you have to fake surprise the next morning? Did you?
What? Yes, I did. But then they caught me. They caught me.
Yeah, they could tell.
So I looked up the Rhino thing. I had no recollection of what it is. Because again, you're going to go a little bit earlier than we did. But
I would like to say thank you, Kirk, for reminding me and bringing back all the nostalgia. Because I, too, looked it up on Google as you were talking about it. And I played with this toy for majority of my childhood, having no clue the ties to this 18-wheeler, to whatever story it was from. It was at my grandmother's house. She had a big toy room, and it was just in the pile of toys. And it was my favorite truck to put all the G.I. Joes on. And
dude,
of course,
so cool.
We crossed
the
there.
Little front came out and was like a
dude. So I was just sitting here just enjoying, just smiling the whole time you were talking about it, because I looked up at the picture and I was like, I played with that exact. I thought it was crashing. I didn't know it was a robot. Like I thought it like it came apart. All
right, man, Andy. So we start off with a Genesis and a little Rhino. Where are you at?
So I said it in the beginning. I'm more a fan of giving gifts. So my list, I'm going to go all over the place. I am going to stick to Christmas. But some of these gifts that I'm going to mention today were gifts that I gave. So we didn't really say that it had to necessarily be gifts we received. There are, let's see, 2 of them that I gave. So half of my mountain are gifts that I've gave. The other ones, to me, like there's a specific story tied to each one of these things. So I love stories. I love, that nostalgia feeling. We've said that plenty of times. And also surprising. If you guys have watched the Rushmore show for any amount of time, I'm a huge fan of the 90s. It's where my childhood was, much like you, Ben, like you're just saying you could have kept it all in the 90s and been happy with it. I would have been happy with it too. But shockingly, not a single gift that I'm going to mention today is from that time period. In fact, for all of the gifts I'm going to mention, they all came in my adulthood. Right? It's like, it's this weird thing. But when I started thinking of Christmas, there are specific things. I got so many gifts as a kid that like, there's a lot that I love, and I could pick toys and whatever, plenty of those things. But these ones just hold a special place in my heart. Some for better reasons than other. And in fact, for my Rosie, I'm going to start with not so great of a gift, but it's a story that's told every single year. It's a memory, like one of those core memories that I have. And I'm going to go back and funny enough, I don't remember the specific year for some of these gifts too, but I'll say this is probably anywhere between 2013, 2015, right? Is when this gift, and my Rosie, we were at my wife's grandmother's house in Bell Chase. And it was just, family Christmas function for her side, and everybody's handing out gifts. And just give you a little backstory on this. For those that don't know, I think I've shared it plenty of times. I'm a big Jim Henson fan. I'm also a drummer, right? So you put one and one together. And of course, my favorite Muppet is going to be Animal. In fact, my first tattoo, I can show you guys my first tattoo that I got. This was my graduation present from my mom. She signed off on this. Is Animal from the Muppets. So I'm a big fan of that, right? And it's known. Yeah. It's known that I'm a big Muppet or Animal fan specifically. Well, this news got out to Courtney's side of the family, and her Aunt Bonnie, who has, in the past, I think, year has passed away. So RIP. She was awesome. Miss her. But she got me this gift, and she meant this to be the perfect gift. I just know deep down. Actually, I'm going for a 2-for-1. I got two things in this one package. So again, I'm bending the rules. Might as well go big or go home. First of all, because the whole thing makes it even more hilarious. First of all, I'm a big guy. I get it. I'm a big guy. I'm not wearing a medium-sized shirt. But the first gift I pull out of this bag is and I was actually looking for it before I filmed because I was going to wear it, is an Animal Christmas shirt he's wearing like a Santa hat, and it says Seasons Beatings, like he's beating the drum. It's like, oh, that's funny. But she got me like a 4X. And I was like, oh, is this? I mean, it's huge. It's huge. But that's not even the funny part. The second part of the gift was this hat. And I love hats. I wear hats all the time. You guys know that. But it's like, what's that type of hat that like folds down like that? It looks like an old newspaper, guy, like
a dapper.
The dapper
cat. Yeah.
And it's Animal, right? And it's got
Animal's
whole face on it, but it's like a child's extra small. And again, I got a large head, right? I got a large head. So that's not even the funniest part. So this is what I do, okay? Pretend this is the hat. I pull it out, and I just want to be nice, right? Because again, getting gifts is awkward. It's just weird, right? I just want to be nice and be like, oh, Animal, I love it. So I kind of like show it around, and I'm like, yeah, I love it. Yeah, this is awesome. Knowing deep down, I'm never going to wear this thing. Like it's not even fitting like my thumb, right? Like it's totally not going to fit. And then it gets even more awkward because Aunt Bonnie says, we'll try it on. Show everyone. And I again, I don't want to upset, because again, it's not I hate the gift. I love that you thought of me and everything. So I pull this number. I'm like, yeah, it's great. It's just on the top. I look like Hey Arnold.
I wish there was a picture of this.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I just wait for a half a second, and I'm like, she's got to know. Yeah. So again, we're talking about great gifts today. Maybe not the greatest gift, but I love it so much because again, what do we talk about?
One of the greatest memories.
It's one of the greatest memories I have. It's great. Every year at like the family Christmas gatherings for her side of the family. We talk about it. We laugh about it. It's just a great time. And really, what do we talk about gifts? Like it's the thought that counts, right? Like it's totally the thought. We get, that's the cliche, but it truly is, right? Like she thought enough to know that I love Animal, that I love the Muppets, and she found this hat. She didn't look at the size. I know there's no way you did. Like those things. And she just found the first shirt she could find, and
precious Aunt Bonnie.
Gosh, it was great. Even though
it's wonderful.
Great. So that's my wonderful. Rosie. So Ben, have you just quickly, do you have any, is it awkward for you to open gifts in front of people? Or you
for sure.
That? Yeah.
Oh, I think we all deal with that. I think, it's always like, oh, they're so excited, and you open it, it's like a pair of white socks, like tube socks that no Nike checks or nothing. It's just regular
Gonna
old
act
tube
so
socks,
excited.
the gray heel, and it's like, hey, thank you. I need some more socks that I'm never gonna wear, and they're 3 sizes too big.
Right.
But it's one of those things where
Goes in the re-gift pile.
yeah, yeah, or goes into the homeless shelter, needs some socks for dudes with big feet. 'Cause I'm not that guy. So it is what it is. You just love people, and now that I'm older, I understand that. I remember I got a terrible present as a kid, a birthday present. It was actually like a David and Goliath action figure, and I thought it was super lame. And I was like, "What is this?" And my mom tore me up. What? I said that at the birthday party. Never again complain about a present. I learned early at a ripe age of 6 not to complain about it when you don't like the present. So.
Well, there we go, man. That's our Rosies. We've made it through our first couple picks of the Rushmore of gifts. Ben, we're going to circle back around to you, man. Where are we going for TJ, Jazzy, Jeff? What could be better than a Genesis, man? What could be better?
Better than a Genesis. I was huge into Nerf guns growing up. Loved the Nerf guns. It was from Gladiator, American Gladiator, and they had that one challenge with the big buff dude shooting tennis balls at the homie running around. And Nerf came out with his Maytel is the Nerf Ultimator Neon Bazooka. It's fantastic, and it had these giant darts that were about that long, about almost like a foot long, 10 inches probably. And you had to pump that joker like 50 times. Your arm would be tired. You're just pumping it to get enough action to shoot it. It would shoot like 100 yards. It was the best. And fun story about it. I got it, so pumped about it. Ran into the kitchen. Mom and dad weren't in there with me. Super excited again. Just I didn't expect to get this. It was expensive. I was like, oh, it's not gonna happen. We get it. One of those moments where you're just throwing the paper and you're all excited. I run in there and I grab a razor blade box opener, box cutter, and try to open it because it has some zip ties. Cut my finger on Christmas morning. I believe it was 1996, 95, 96, somewhere in there. Went to the ER. I've got the scar. You can't see it probably with my camera. A scar on my thumb still, right where it bends. I cut my thumb.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Nobody.
Spent the morning in the ER, ruined Christmas for the rest of the family for at least a couple hours. Get home. The worst part about it is every other zip tie I manhandled and popped them open with a big old thing on my thumb with stitches and stuff. But I love it. One, because of the memory of just being in the ER, and two, because, man, just to get to shoot my older brother with that thing, it was just so much fun. He had his little arch, his bow one that was really cool, and he was always proud of that. And then I got a bazooka, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to win these games now. And so just awesome. The Ultimator is what it's called. 1994 is when it came out. But it was around 95, 96 when I got it. So the Ultimator is a lot of fun.
So
Andy, were you a Nerf guy?
Yes. So
Nerf or nothing.
I don't remember the names of everything, but like I'm Googling this as
I had to Google it too.
I had this thing. I told like with the purple and everything rocking.
Yes.
Dude, it is so sweet. Yeah, and you're right, man. It's a workout to get this thing.
Oh yeah, you had to pump it. You had to
pump it like crazy. Man, this is fun. Funny story about Nerf. Kirk, you know this in youth ministry. Ben, you probably, if you guys have done this before, but having Nerf wars and Nerf battles and different things like that. I was literally today setting up for an event that we're having this week, moving chairs, doing all that kind of stuff, and found Nerf bullets just underneath things. They're just forever everywhere.
Always.
It could be from 2017, Kirk. Who knows when these Nerf bullets are from?
Those things hurt nowadays, though. Like,
so
they hurt, man.
I went to a birthday party recently that was a Nerf birthday party.
Yeah.
Like the advancement of all of these Nerf guns, like,
dude,
like
it's amazing.
The Ultimator was like pretty. That was the advanced.
That was advanced. It was. Yeah.
Now they've got like clips and they've got just everything. Like
automatic. Had one. You had automatic one. I mean, I had the little balls. It was like shooting darts, and it was like a submachine gun, and just. It was crazy,
intense, man. It's intense. So.
Yeah, I wasn't really well. I mean, I had Nerf guns, but like it wasn't like a hobby of mine, if you will. I always got the cruddy ones. I don't know how many I actually had that were Nerf brand. A lot of my friends in the neighborhood, Nerf wasn't really. I mean, I guess it was coming out. I remember really much bigger than that was the Super Soaker guns. They had just come out, the water guns, and playing with those, but. When I was in youth ministry, we started the Nerf war over there that Andy is pioneering, and I remember I didn't have any Nerf guns, not any really awesome ones. And I had a son who was young, and I was like, oh, yeah, I need to get him some guns. We saw this ad online, and this little kid wants to sell all his Nerf guns so that he can, I think he was buy a PS4 at the time, maybe a PS3. And his mom was like, you got to sell some. So we met him. We met him in the Walmart parking lot. And this kid opens up the trunk of his mom's car.
Like a gun dealer.
It has got like 25 of these BA Nerf guns. And I felt like I was in an arms deal. And he's like,
that's awesome.
And he's like, I was like, how much you want for the guns? I'm trying to get a PS5. So, I mean, I think we gave him like, I don't know, $150 for all these guns. And I still got a ton of them, but I used them a lot for that Nerf.
That's
war.
awesome.
That's a cool story.
Awesome.
Cool story. I love Nerf guns. They're awesome.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
My son loves them. He loves them.
Kirk, let's go to you, man. TJ, where are you going?
So this one's a little different, and it's only a little different because I literally cannot, for the life of me, find a photo. I can't find a picture. I can't find it. Again, it might be one of those Mandela effects. I know this is not a Mandela effect, though. But look, I can't find a picture. I can't find any any evidence of this ever being out there. But it is something I begged for. There's a coming of age type gift that everybody can kind of get, whatever your love is, like if the coming of age gift where it's time to shave or it's time to drive your car. Well, this was this other coming of age gift where it was like moving from I'm not a little kid anymore to I'm a teenager type thing, and I begged and I begged and I begged. I remember the Sears catalog would come out, the Christmas, and we're circling gifts and we're circling whatever. And it was for the first time, I think, that I went further into the catalog and actually looked at things that weren't toys. And I went to the electronics, and in the electronics area, I wanted and I don't even know what I'm going to call it because I've typed in so many different things to try and find it. But basically a component stereo entertainment center type thing, tape deck that was like fully everything. And this particular one that I got, it was I wanted this stereo because I only had like a little radio or whatever, and I wanted something cool. This is my teenage time. At the time it was tapes. Right after that, it was before CDs because I can remember when I got the CD player having the tape insert with the wire to listen to my CDs. But this particular one was like all wood, just tape, no record. That's the thing. That's the issue. I can find them. They'll have CD, they'll have record. This one's just tape. And you can store your tapes at the bottom, and the speakers clipped in, and you would open them and they would be ready for blasting, and you could kind of tuck the speakers away and protect them. I had this thing. I brought it to college with me. Like I had it forever. And it finally fell apart and had to get rid of it. It probably stood roughly about 3 foot. And it was when I started to really find my love in music. And I never got to play music. I wasn't that good at that. I was an athlete and really stuck with sports and never really thought about actually playing, but I loved listening, and I started collecting music, and my love of collecting tapes moved into collecting CDs, moved into collecting, Napster downloads or whatever it may be. But yeah, I love this. This is one of my favorite things.
That's amazing.
I remember them late that night because I couldn't wait till the morning, kind of giving that to me right before I went to bed. And I couldn't sleep all night. I was just like so over the moon. And I found some that are similar, but I can't find anything that's anywhere close to actually being exactly what I'm looking for. I don't even remember the brand. That was it. Like I want to say it was a Panasonic or a Pioneer or maybe a Sony. I don't know. But anyways, a tape deck, full stereo system.
That's amazing. And for all of the listeners that are under the age of 25, he mentioned a catalog, and what that was a giant thick boy magazine that you had to flip through to find it what you wanted. You couldn't just look up Amazon, or there was no Walmart.com. It was the catalogs, and that brought back a lot of memories as well because we'd circle them and put our initial next to it so Granny and Mom would know which ones to get us.
Never get anything. You would never get. At least my
we never got that.
It was like Yeah. Go ahead and
Yep.
circle that. Have fun.
Yep,
Have
that's
at
it.
it. I'm
That's
not
it.
getting you any of that.
Yeah, that's my TJ Jazzy Jeff. Andy, your turn.
All right. TJ, Jazzy Jeff. I shared that I'm going to be talking about memories, stories, and I'm also going to have two of my gifts are gifts that I actually gave. Now, this falls into that category. I did give this gift. However, I got to participate in this gift as well. So this was really like a family gift that we bought for everyone.
Oh, I like these.
Family.
I like this.
So I did get to participate in this. So yes, I gave it, but it was also for me too. And I'm going to go back to the year 2018, before COVID was even a thing, before we even thought about it, before we even knew what that was.
Way back to 2018.
And you guys remember that? And so we could go places, right? You could
go places
and like be part of society and do things, right? You could do all that, and we decided to just shell out some money and have this awesome. I love buying for my kids like stuff, but I much more prefer experiences. I like them to go places and have these types of experiences. And I am going to pick for my TJ Jazzy Jeff. Back in 2018, we bought our first family trip to Disney World. It was amazing. I know some people, Francisco 2 weeks ago,
not what I say to Francisco right here.
Not a Disney guy. Listen, if you don't enjoy going to Disney World with your kids, you don't have a soul. Okay, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it right there. You don't. So in 2018, now I went to Disneyland as a kid a few times, family in California. I went to Disney World for my senior trip, but there was a good 10, 11, 12 years in between my senior trip and this trip here. We planned it for our whole family to go and do that. And, it was awesome because my youngest at the time was under 2, so she was free. And let me just tell you this. This is just what is amazing about Disney. Say what you want to about their cultural, like their beliefs and that thing and all that. We're Christians here. They don't necessarily follow that, but they don't have to because they're not a Christian organization. Like we get surprised when they do things like that. Watch the movies if you want to. Don't watch them. Ban them in your household. I don't care. But Disney World, what I love, and this is it. This is the family trip. The whole concept of this is looking in my kids' eyes and just the wonder that they have when they see Cinderella or they see, Mickey Mouse down the street. Like, it's just living kind of vicariously through them. Obviously, I'm still there and I'm a part of it. And it's amazing even as an adult because we actually went another time, just me and my wife. Was awesome. But like to be there and experience this with my kids was just amazing as a dad. And Ben, I know I've seen pictures you brought your family to
bro. Absolutely.
Talked about. Yeah. It's
Disney nerd. I'm a Disney World nerd. We didn't go to Florida. I haven't been to the one in California. And I've never been, so I'm super jealous. I've never been around Christmas. I really wanted to go this year, just couldn't find a way to make it happen financially. But man, dude, I've been probably about 20 times, and you're absolutely right. You nailed it. This is a great pick. And if I had gone to Disney World for Christmas, it would be number one on my list. Yeah. But I haven't done that yet, so it's on the bucket list to do.
The smells,
but absolutely love it. The smells, the food, the lines and the heat. But you got to go at the right time of year. If you go in February, September, it's not as bad. Yeah. October. You just got to know when to do it and get you a travel agent because it's free to you. It don't cost you any more money to have a travel agent that can help you with all the details that you don't know. Yeah. Makes the trip wonderful. And you're right about the kids, man. I loved it as a kid. And then when I became a father, man, it's just a different level of enjoyment for me to see the faces of those guys when they're looking at Mickey Mouse walking down, riding a truck down Main Street, just dancing or whatever. It's just amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's to see them run. Like my kids ran to hug Tinkerbell. Like we don't watch Peter Pan.
Let me jump in. I haven't been to Disney since Carson was 7, and so she is now about to be 14. I haven't been since then, so I haven't seen the whole new Star Wars or whatever. We are trying to plan one right now because I have a 7-year-old that can now walk and do the things that he can do.
Fantastic.
And it is time to get back out there. This isn't on my list because I just didn't go that route and what I gave, because I guess I kind of got that present too. But it is, we talked about it back in the vacation spots, Andy, both me and you. And you can be a Disney hater, you can hate the movies. I, on the other hand, love the movies. I love Disney's Marvel. I love Disney's Star Wars. I don't care what anybody says. It's really hard, even in the sweltering heat, the price tags, the long lines, the whatever it may be. It rains every dang day there. Like, no matter what it is, it's very hard to find unhappy people. I don't understand it. Like, I walk around and it's just nice. And those are people that are unhappy, I guess, are in their hotel room. But it is just a fun place. I love it. I can't wait to go. I wish I lived closer. I wish it was something I could afford more often, but it's not. So
interesting note with this trip. Right after this trip, on the way, we did not go straight home. Kirk, we came to your house and we celebrated Christmas with you guys right after. So we did like a whole 2-3 week vacation, fun time. So yeah,
that's great
pick, man. Great,
amazing. Hey, so we're at the halfway point, right? We're halfway through our mountain, which what we've been doing for a while. We're gonna go ahead and kick it to a commercial break. Let's hear from our not sponsors.
You did see him. Uh-huh.
Your Norwest banks wish you holidays filled with magic and wonder and peace.
Welcome back to the Rushmore Show. And what a great commercial that was. Andy, man, dude, we are a great first half of the mountain. We're on the second half of the mountain. And Ben, where is it taking us? What kind of memory lane are we going down?
We're going back to the 90s. I just live it in the 90s.
Link, here he comes.
This is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Megazord. Zord, excuse me, I said the word wrong. But
Megazoid.
I did not ask for this. I did not want this. But when I got it, I tell you, I was so excited. Like, it came in a big old box. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, my mom barely let me watch the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and so, like, to be able to have that, I remember I at first I was kind of bummed out when I opened it, but then I was like, this thing is amazing. It had all the different animals, and my memory doesn't serve me correct. I probably should Google it so I could pull it up, but there's like the elephant, the lion, all these different things that it could attach and be its single little robot, or you could put it together. It had the big sword. Man, it was incredible. And so I just remember I was an action figure guy. I was a Nerf guy. I was a video game guy, and loved those things. I was a nerd, and I don't know why I tried to play basketball. I don't know why that fit into my life, and I tried to be a basketball player. But those three things are three core memories. And, man, I can tell you that I played a lot of make-believe Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and it trumped my love for I was a huge Ninja Turtle fan, and when this toy, it wasn't even the show, it was the toy, made me a believer in Power Rangers, and I stopped watching Ninja Turtles as much and jumped over to Power Rangers. And just absolutely loved it. So
couple things. One, did you see the toy episode there, Ben? Because on my Benjamins, I show my original 5 Power Rangers still in a box, the original 5. And the second thing is, awesome. Man, for all those Power Ranger fans, big RIP, man, Jason David Frank.
Right.
Man, that was a sad moment. I wasn't a huge fan, but I know how hard that hit. I hit all my friends, groups. So, man,
definitely a legend for sure.
I love this, man. I love the Power Rangers. And look, the popular pick is to pick the Green Ranger / White Ranger as your favorite. It's like picking Raphael as your favorite Ninja Turtle. It's like one of those things. I, on the other hand, was a Zach Taylor fan, man. Black Ranger all day, every day.
Yes.
Give me the Mammoth. Like he was my favorite.
Yes.
I do love it. I had that toy as well. So
Look at us, man. Not only do we look alike, we had the same childhood.
we
What's
shared the
going on?
exact same toy room as a kid.
Exact same feelings and everything. It came from the
Same
exact same
toys,
person as well.
Same face.
Golly.
Come on, it's
Yeah,
wonderful.
we need to plan.
Santa was sitting there and said, "Oh, both of them want the same gift."
That's right. We're gonna make it happen.
Yeah. Anyway, so
did you have a bowl cut, bro?
No. No, I didn't.
You had long hair,
so I had
didn't you?
I had a bowl cut.
Well, not as a kid. I don't. Not as a
I
kid.
had
We'll
the
talk
bowl
about that
shaved
one
underneath.
on my next pick. But
Okay.
Kirk,
Oh, we're talking about bowl cuts on the next pick. That's awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. So, Kirk, before we get to that,
Let me jump into my
man,
pick. So
Yeah.
this is so Andy, I said I got two things. I've been looking for the pictures. I can't find it. I really want to have something to show our fans. And man, I just can't find this one either. So the stereo last time, this is my other pick. 1987, 88. I'm assuming it's right about then. That gives me about 9-10 years old. And I wasn't a skateboard guy. I was a bike guy. And I asked for a bike. And I wanted a specific couple different kinds of bikes. And I didn't get the exact one I wanted because those were like, $5, $6, $8, $900. I got one that probably came from Walmart or whatever. And it was the best gift I probably ever got in my life, aside from my George. And I got, I think I got a Huffy Sigma BMX bike with white wheel covers, pegs on both sides, rotors that turn the front wheel and everything. And dude, this bike to me, because I wanted a GT, I wanted a Mongoose, I wanted a Piranha, I wanted one of these bikes that are like just, you see on TV at the X Games or something. But I got what was the next best option, if you will. And it was gray, had white rims, white pegs, and I was the bike guy. My house, I lived in a neighborhood. It was about a half a mile to ride that bike all the way around. And I can tell you, I put on miles. We used to race around the whole neighborhood with everybody. I would win several. I would lose just as many. And I absolutely love this. Building ramps, building verts, people doing skateboards. I'm trying to jump them into the bushes with my bike. And man, what I would do to have that bike right now. Like I remember riding people on the pegs, front and back, you name it. Everybody get on. Let's do this. My link is, it's all about my childhood. It's all about being in the neighborhood, all about exploring the woods and this is the Goonies moment. This is this is the moment where we're going to go out on an adventure. We're all riding down, riding up to the comic book store. There's so many things on this bike that just changed my life and my perspective.
I love it, man. Nothing was cooler than like just that window of time of everyone in the neighborhood had the bikes. And yeah, you're right with the pegs, man. Like if you didn't have it or for whatever reason it wasn't on you, like you were riding all through the neighborhood on those pegs, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Did you catch air on it any?
You ever take it off any sweet jumps?
Oh yeah, man. I would jump. But this is a time where there was no fear. I love seeing those memes where it's like kid from the 80s and, we drank out of fire hoses. We rode bikes and like didn't wear any arm pads, you name it. Yeah. I have scars to this day. Like you were talking, Ben, with your Ultimator story. I've got scars on my knees, my arms. From just beating myself up with this. I could never skate. I had a skateboard. I was terrible at it. So, bike was my jam. I could keep it up, try to do tricks, try to jump up and make the rotors flip and all that stuff. I never was able to flip anything. I wish. I watch X Games and love it, man. I love X Games.
Ben, were you a biker?
Oh, I was more of a rollerblader. For my preference there. A nice little Brink
Beam in the
reference
queue.
back in the day.
Brink.
But yeah, man. I did. Oh yeah, absolutely. You would have been the coolest kid, Kirk, in our neighborhood with that bike. It sounded amazing. But we always had good bikes. I had a bike stolen from me from some neighborhood kids, and I never got in a fight really when I was a kid. I wasn't that guy, but I wanted to. But Dad wouldn't let me. I was like, I'm gonna beat him up, Dad. They stole my bike. But they spray painted it, so we didn't really know if it was them. But anyway, that's nothing to do with gifts.
If you go back to the toys episode, so Kirk, you were a bike guy. You were a rollerblade guy, Ben. I was the Razor scooter kid.
Nice.
That was me. We would have had a pretty sick
Messed your
gang back in
shins
the day,
up.
man.
We
Dude,
would have had a pretty little cool club, man. You got the scooter. Yeah.
We could have been like Rocket Power from Nickelodeon. You know what I'm talking about?
squid. Oh, my
Nice.
That's great.
Fun stuff, man. I love it. So great pick with the bike. Love that.
Now, Andy, it's your turn, man. You finish off Link, and you've been kind of going astray. See where you come back and hang out with us. Let's see if you got a story for us.
Yeah, man. I love stories, and it doesn't end here. Honestly, this story is much better than my George. But you'll see when I do my George specifically why I did that. So this one is a gift that I gave to my wife last Christmas. Well, no, let me backtrack. I'm going to backtrack for a while. My wife and I started dating senior year of high school. We both went to the same high school, and back then, we used to like wait to call each other until like after 8 p.m. or something like that because the minutes were free. You know what I'm talking about, right? So back then the minutes were free after 8 p.m. So we would talk. And guys, if like in those early dating stages and you're talking on the phone and you're just trying to find things to talk about, like you're just sitting on the phone, like doing whatever. For whatever reason, one night we got to talking about where we went to like preschool, right? Like start talking about school and stuff like that. So I said, I went to Carol's Cottage in Bell Chase, and immediately there was silence on the other end. And I was like, is that it? Was that that's going to end this relationship? That's the deal breaker, that I went to Carol's Cottage in Bell Chase? And then I hear it rustling around and I hear her pick it up and say, you have got to be kidding me. I went to that exact same preschool at the same time. Well, what happened was her family moved to Texas. My family moved to the North Shore. And then they were in Texas, third grade all the way through junior year of high school, moved back to the North Shore. We re-met technically in senior year of high school, started dating, found all that stuff out. It's just a really cool testimony, like cool story of like just God being up to a lot more than you can really see with your eyes. But in that, one thing we found is that at our preschool, we did a play, every year or whatever, like a big production that they would do. And we were in the same production. We were in the same one. We're on the same playbill. So you see my name, you see her name there, same playbill. This is 1994. We're here. And then there was a VHS recording of this performance that we are both in, that you can see with the grains and with everything, right? It's VHS, right? So last year, I actually have it right here. This is the VHS. If you see that, it says Carol's Cottage. What does it say there? For Children presents the greatest show on earth.
What's a VHS?
For those that don't know, we've talked about tape decks, we've talked about Sears magazines, and now we're bringing out the VHS. Anyway,
that's it. What
I did was we have this, and we don't have a VCR. Does anyone have a VCR anymore? Like, how do we show this? It's in the Smithsonian.
Don't put it in a VCR. It'll be gone.
My in-laws have one.
Right. Okay. Maybe so. So I sent this off to get digitized, and now I have it on a USB, and I've got this memory. We've watched it like once since I did this. It's not necessarily like something we're going to watch every night and put on, but it's a great memory. It's a really cool story of how like we were in the same school. Now, I mentioned I was going to talk about bowl cuts. I didn't have a bowl cut, but my wife, unfortunately, her family was the one who gave her the bowl haircut. And I was a lion in this. I played one of the lions. She was like an acrobat or something. So she had a little performance where they had to do like leapfrog over each other.
He's a violinist.
Yeah. So fun times, man. Both of our families were
That's
here.
great.
Her family actually, this is from her family. They actually purchased the VHS recording of it, and just a really cool memory.
Congratulations to you for being so romantical, man. That's an amazing, like, that's a good gift, bro.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? There's a reason I got a third.
I hope my wife doesn't listen this far into
That was
this and
last
hear
year?
that, man. I'm gonna be
This was last
severely
year.
disappointed.
I've got
Andy, you stepping your game up this year. I'm hoping.
Man, I love it.
not as much. Oh man! All right, so
well, we're to the George, man.
Georgie.
G-Dub. All right, where are we going?
Yeah, we're gonna stay right there in the husband and loving relationship. We're getting out of the 90s. I am now married. I've had my firstborn, and I wore this hat specifically to help out with this very one right here. So you're seeing that word there, Dad. It may be backwards on your screen, who knows? But it says Dad because Christmas Eve a couple years ago, do the math. My baby girl is 3 years old. Christmas Eve, we're finishing up the last touches of Christmas Eve and going to bed, and my wife comes walking in with a pregnancy test and drops a bomb that, hey, she's pregnant. The greatest present I've ever gotten was that news, but before that, it was even greater than that. The story behind it was even cooler. I'm not a super like over the top spiritual guy. I believe God talks to us. I mean, I'm a pastor. We mentioned that at the beginning of this episode as y'all are introducing me. I believe God speaks to us, and it was early in that year, and I can't remember the year because math is hard.
Tough guys don't do math. Tough guys deep fried chicken for a living.
But the Lord told me that in a dream that I was going to have a baby girl. I was going to have a baby girl, blonde hair, blue eyes. And I woke up just all excited. And I told my wife, and she got so mad at me. She was not ready to have a second child. She was not there. She's like, that was not a God. She just completely like totally like ruined my faith. I was like, man, I heard from God last night. And the next day I was kind of like, maybe she's right. Maybe I just ate Taco Bell too late, you know? And that was about in April when I had that dream. And I remember specifically in the dream, the Lord said by the end of the year, you're gonna have another child on the way, or have another child. And so I was excited about it. So the year's winding down. It's Christmas Eve, dude. It's like we got a week left of the year, 2 weeks left or whatever. And here she comes. And the first thing I told her was, I'm super excited and also in your face. God still speaks to me. We just had a great evening, and then got to tell the in-laws and the parents the next day on Christmas Day. Just a great present. Being a dad is the greatest thing. All the nerd things that I love to do, being a dad is my favorite. And man, it was just great news. Great Christmas present when you get your news of a newborn coming.
Yeah, I love being a dad. It's definitely my best gift to the world is being a father. I that's a bad dad joke, but anyways, I really do love being a dad, and I unfortunately for the show's sake, none of my kids were gifts as in Christmas goes, but they're all gifts for sure. I love that, and man, one of my favorite things about Christmas, I mean, we got the tree up just this weekend. We were a little late to the game this year. And is my favorite thing is just piling as many things as I can get under here for the kids, because I just want to see their faces in the morning, man. We get up early, see that. And yeah, children to me is, yeah, you beat us all. You beat us all. It's a great George.
Kirk, where are you going to go for your George, man?
All right, guys, look, so this is it. My George. Yeah, it's not a child, but I treated this like a child. Like it was my baby. And I'm going a little cheat. I'm going to be a little cheat. It's my Rushmore and nobody else's. So, but it is a bit of a crushmore. It's a bit of a crushmore with Ben, kind of, right? I'm going to 1985. I'm going to 1990. Both of those years, I've got two of the best gifts I ever got in my whole entire life. And I still have them right here. And I'm going with none other.
Well, there it is.
And my Super Nintendo.
There it is.
I got both of them for Christmas. Look at the yellow on that. Look at the yellow.
Oh, got them.
These are the originals. 1985, 1990. These came out. My very first video game systems. We had the Atari. That was more of a family system. These were mine. It grew the love of video games for me. If you go back and look at the video game shows, they were right back here. All my video games, I still have Nintendo games from those original games. Some of them gone, some of them long gone past. One of my favorite things to do, which got me into YouTube, is watching people that collect video games. I just love seeing the old nostalgia games, the stories of where they came from. And I wanted to be a video game design guy. I wanted to design computer animation. I wanted to put together my own games. And I just had a big love. I remember my favorite games, Mega Man. He was on my characters one, and I used to draw because I was a bit of an artist. I would draw what I would do, like a Mega Man 4, and then that came out. So I did a 5, and that came out, and 6, and then finally whatever. But Nintendo, Super Nintendo, more memories than I could ever talk, man. If I wasn't outside riding that Sigma, right, riding the bike, I was inviting everybody over to my house for sandwiches or whatever, and we go back in my room for hours and play, whatever it was, Mario or some of the favorites, Excite Bike or Final Fantasy or whatever it may be, Ninja Turtles and whatnot. And I've spent hours and hours and hours on these systems. They don't really work now perfectly. You gotta, and I can probably still get it to work, but these new TVs really suck trying to hook these things up. So you basically can purchase them with 700 games on them now for half the price to try and get this thing to work. Yeah. So it's just a collector's thing now. It just kind of sits around in my office, and it's kind of just one of those pieces that is just amazing. Beautiful. I love it. It's awesome. It's a brick, right? It's so good, man. Nintendo, Super Nintendo, best gifts I've ever gotten by far as a kid. I mean, I can think of all the amazing things I got, but this brings so many memories back. I mean, so many people, somebody spending the night at other people's houses and carrying it in my bag so I could put it on their system. Yeah, that's it, man.
I love it.
About that? So kind of a Rushmore with the Genesis.
Yeah.
Same idea.
System, yeah.
No, but
video games, man. Hey, video games.
That's it.
So you love video games. I'll say this, Nintendo, and I shared this, as much I totally agree with the Sega Genesis. Love that pick. I think if I'm picking, and I've picked it before and I've said this, that my favorite video game company, but it's just Nintendo. It's everything Nintendo does is just between all the different systems. N64 is my favorite system of all time, but everything that they do, and it really begins back here. When you think video games, I think many people are going to say Atari. Then they may bring it back to Pong and do all that kind of stuff and Frogger and everything. But man, like that's where I go. Like it is 100%. It is the original. It's the Super Mario. That's where I think of video games. So we know your thoughts on Genesis. What about Nintendo?
Yeah, no, I just didn't have the Super Nintendo, but it is by far, every time I went to my friend's house, I would agree that it's by far the greatest console company that's out there. I currently play on PC, and I would argue that nothing can touch PC, but that's a totally different argument. Growing up, the nostalgia is not with a PC. It's with a Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, and Nintendo 64. We switched from Sega to N64. We had the GameCube, so we went back to Nintendo. We had the Game Boys. So man, Nintendo is just a huge place in my memory as I look up at my Pokeball on my desk up here. I just love it, man. Love it.
All right, Andy. So where we end in this mountain? What's the George?
Yeah, I thought long and hard about this, and I was actually at work at the church today, and I turned around and I looked at my bookshelf, and it just it jumped out. Going back now, we'll share this in a little bit when we're talking about testimony. But I didn't grow up in a family that went to church. They believed, but we didn't go to church and we didn't do that kind of stuff. And as a result, I didn't go to church through my childhood, adolescence, teen years. I went to a youth group once in a while to hang out with friends, and that was really it. Definitely didn't stick. Definitely had no frame of reference, didn't believe, anything like that. And that kind of changed when we had our first kid. We started making some changes in our life, and I won't ruin all that stuff testimony wise yet, but started going to church and started heavily attending the church, got connected with you, Kirk, and we've shared that a few different times. But one of the best, and again, we're at George, the best gift that I ever got actually came from my parents. And again, it's crazy, as great of a gift as it is, I don't remember the specific year. But if I had to guess, it's probably about 2015, 2016 ish, maybe even before that. But I think it was we started going to the church in 2014. So it was not too long after that. And what my parents gave me was actually, and again, I'm, 25, 26 ish or so at this point, but my first Bible. This was my first actual Bible that I had. I didn't have one as a kid. I went to church every now and then as a kid. If I was, I always say this, if I was staying the night at my grandparents' house and the next day was church, that was just part of the deal. Like, I would just go to church with them. But, I didn't go to church. I didn't have a Bible. I didn't even know what any of this stuff was. I had no idea. But my parents knew that I started attending church and we started making some changes in life. And they got me this Bible. And this Bible, it's an NIV. It was my first one that I had. It's a study Bible. If you've ever seen, I'll show you. It's the Rainbow Study Bible. So like every verse is like, this one's about God. This one's about sin. This is about love. It's whatever. Each color means something. And yeah, I did much of my early, like, figuring out who Jesus was and figuring out my walk and making those changes in my life, reading through this thing. And it's forever going to hold a place in my heart as the first one that I had. Obviously, I then, it's kind of easy to have a digital one. I hate Kindle. Like, nothing against the company, but I don't like not having the book, right? So like the digital Bible and the YouVersion is a great tool. I love it. It's amazing. I use it a lot, but there's something about actually holding a Bible and flipping. I don't know like what it is about that. And maybe you guys are not on that. Maybe you are, I don't know, but, I just go back to my number one. This really kind of is where it all began for me and my faith and everything like that. Was through this Bible. It's highlighted. It's funny. Every verse, like I shared, is highlighted, but I actually have verses that I've highlighted over their highlighting, because I was like, yeah, I don't necessarily read it in a study sense, or I didn't read it in a study sense of like figuring out what each color was, but it's a cool tool. So that's my George.
It's awesome, man.
My first Bible.
It's a great story, man. That's a great story. I love it. I love you. Sharing your faith a little bit. My first Bible was also gifted to me, but it wasn't for Christmas. And that was Brittany actually purchased me a Bible. Funny story.
She's probably thinking, I got to get this guy saved.
No, this is a little bit different kind of moment, because when this happened, we had just gotten saved, if you will, and I decided to go to ministry school.
Yeah,
and I was kind of talking to her. I was like, I've never read the Bible, and I don't have a Bible, and I'm about to go to Bible college. And so she went to Walmart or wherever. I don't even know where she got it from, but I've seen it at Walmart, the same exact one. But she got me a King James Version Bible, Rainbow Study Bible. I've got it still.
Rainbow Study. There it is.
She gave it to me, King James Version, and I took that thing to school, and I came home after the first day, and I literally cried.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
And I said, I've made the worst decision of my life. There's no way I can study this thing. There is no way I can get through this. And then someone at the school actually had a Bible that I had seen before. And I'm like, I've seen this Bible before. And actually it was McKenna's, and somebody had given McKenna a Bible, and it was up in her closet, and it was the one that I went through school with. I went and got that Bible and kind of went through school. But anyways, yeah, I was also gifted a Bible, and it's life changing. It's a great present, and I'm glad your family did that, man.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's what's interesting is that I wouldn't say I'm a Bible collector, but I've got I got quite a few Bibles that like since then, like people have been like, hey, here's a Bible, here's whatever. It's like, okay, I get these Bibles.
It's whatever.
And my go-to Bible is actually let's see, it's right here. So I have a Fire Bible. This is my go-to.
That's it. That's the goat.
Which I was also gifted a Fire Bible before from Andy. Andy gifted
I got one last Christmas as a gift.
So my pastor actually got it. He got my name on it, Pastor. You know, when I first came on staff full time. This is my go-to. This is what I'm continually reading, ESV. But and I got one over here. I'm looking. I mean, literally, I've got Bibles all over the place, and it's just
Andy. My pastor too gifted me that same Bible, and if it's the NLT, it's the exact same with the same name on it.
Andrew Ricketts, Pastor Andrew Ricketts on your Bible.
It says Andrew Ricketts on my Bible, and it's amazing. No, but it says Ben. But I just love all the connections that you and I are having tonight.
So we had to break the connection a little bit. Mine's ESV, not NLT. But,
I almost got the ESV, but that's a little more, over my head. I'm a little more basic of a reader.
But anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, having all those Bibles, I still cool. This one holds a place in my heart. This is
absolutely.
I go back to this one every now and then, and just good memories. And this is kind of where it all started. Like I said, so that's my George. I think we all have amazing lists, man. Great job.
This Saturday and Sunday, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, we are celebrating all across the world the best gift ever. And with that being said, we wanted to welcome on another one of our favorite pastors from our network and kind of just tell you about the real George, the real best gift. I mean, something that goes even further than any of these presents we could ever get. And we're going to talk about a little bit about our journey, our approach, and how we actually receive that gift on our own personal level. So without further ado, all about the Benjamins today is going to be all about Jesus. All right, Rushmore Show. This is a moment that we've waited a whole year for. Yeah, we are at episode 51. We are at Christmas week 2022, celebrating with my great friends Andy and Ben, or Ben and whatever it may be. But here's the deal. I have been gifted a lot of things in my life, not just in Christmas, birthdays, Easter, just because I'm a cool guy. I mean, whatever it may be. People have given me so many things over the years. I mean, it's just amazing. But there is nothing better than the gift that I got when I decided to give my life over to a better cause, a better journey, and actually give my life to Christ and walk this thing called salvation out. And I thought it'd be just a great idea, especially some of our guests that have been on the show. Most of them are all pastors or leaders of the church. If they haven't, they know our journeys a little bit because they're all friends of ours. And we have a lot of watchers that may or may not actually be believers, if you will. And that's great. And I'm fine with that. And I love welcome here, be here. But I thought everybody can go and get the gospel message at any church this week, right? Any church next week, to be honest. You can go to any weekend, but you won't hear our message. And our message is where we came from and who we were and what we are now. And honestly, I thought it would be the best way to share the Rushmore Show style, the best gift. Andy, I know a little bit about your story. Ben, I don't think I've heard your story, and I'm sure it's just as awesome. And I thought, we can just give a little bit about how you received the gift, and just kind of share what that's meant to you in your life. So,
yeah,
flip of a coin here. And, I guess we could just keep it the same route and start with our guest and then move to me and finish off with Andy. But Ben, man,
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the gift of
man.
salvation, the gift of Jesus, and what that means to you.
I'm gonna go ahead and use this scripture before everybody else uses it because it's the greatest one scripture that I've ever read. It's John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that we may not perish but have eternal life. And just to highlight the word gave, every single ounce of our faith is wrapped around the fact that there is this God, this being that created us to love him, so much so that he gave himself for us. He gave himself to us and to be with him. And so I've heard this. I have grown up in a third, fourth generation Christian home. I don't know when you guys are talking about getting your Bibles as some of your George Washingtons. I can't remember my first Bible, man, because I remember some gifted Bibles that are very special to me, that some special people have given me that I still have to this day. But like, I don't remember the first one was given to me because I joke around. I was like, man, I think my mom gave birth to me on the first pew of our old church growing up. Like it's just that was my story, and that doesn't mean I understood what it meant to be a Christian. It doesn't mean I understood it at a young age, because I didn't. I went to church because mom and dad went to church, because granny and grandpa went to church, and it was really their decision as 20-year-olds who are both dead and gone to be in heaven now, lived on into their 89. They were both 89 years old when they passed away. Their decision as young adults, that right after the war, World War II, my grandpa gave his life to the Lord in a tent revival in New Orleans. My grandmother was the same night, the night after, she gave her heart to the Lord. And man, that started a journey in our family of the gift of being introduced to faith. Was given to us. The thing is about faith is that you have to choose to receive it. It's not, I mean, any gift technically you have to choose to receive, but when it's a toy, you're like, yes, I want that, because you see the benefit immediately. You see what that Nerf bazooka is going to do. You see what that Super NES is going to do for you. Christianity, I didn't necessarily see that right away. It took me some time. I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't do bad things. I got married at 26 years old. I was a virgin. People may giggle at that. I wasn't a partier. I didn't drink. I didn't do all that stuff. But here's the reality that I knew, that I was still as much of a sinner as anybody else, because in Romans 3:23, it tells us, for all have sinned and fallen short of God's glory. And it's not about being good, and it's not about being bad. It's about being in a relationship with God the Father and his son Jesus, who came to this earth to live in this world, to die on a cross to cover the mistake that sin put in us, that void, that gap between man and God that bridged us together. And I had to learn through my own experience and my own faith as I grew up in church and hearing it and learning about it and hearing all the Bible stories. I had to realize that, hey, this is not just about doing right and wrong. This is about living in a relationship. The Bible refers to Christians as the bride of Christ. So I don't want to demasculinize anybody, but for me, I just had to realize that what is that? God calls me his bride. What is that relationship like, man? That gift to be the bride of the God of all the universe that created everything, man. And it's such a life-changing thing. And I'll say this, as life has gone on and I've matured, I'm 37 now. I've been serving the Lord since I was about 12 is when it really, the light bulb started clicking in me with the need for a savior. Really about 17, 18 before it really set in really what that meant. Again, like Kirk, started going to Bible school. I was like, maybe I should be living this the right way if I'm going to Bible school, kind of a thing. Maybe I should figure this out before I get there, and then learn through going to Bible school what it really means to serve the Lord. And man, a quick testimony within a testimony, if I could do that. It's a couple of years, about a year and a half ago or so, a friend of ours was on our way home and got shot and mistaken for another person in their car, drive-by, got shot up, and she died. She's 29 years old. She was on our staff. Her was our best friend. She spent Christmases with us. She spent Easter with us. All the holidays. She was at our family, around our table, and just really close to our family. And she was my kids pastor for about 3 months, because she went off to Bible school. She came back, was my kids pastor when I was a lead pastor. I'm no longer in that role, but when I was a lead pastor, and I'll tell you what, I thank the Lord that I have Jesus, because when death hits you like that, I've experienced it with Granny passed away, with Papa passed away, with older people pass away. I experienced it when people that weren't real old died because of sickness. I experienced that because it's kind of one of those things where you're like, okay, they have cancer. They're not beating it. It looks like, you kind of go down that road, it's coming. This is like get a call at midnight, so and so just got shot, she's probably not going to make it. And you're like, what in the world is going on? And if I had not had a relationship with Jesus, I tell you, I probably wouldn't be in this chair talking on y'all's podcast right now, because I don't know how I would have made it in life, period. Leaning into Jesus, there's this thing called peace. It says, Jesus taught in the Beatitudes, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And I went through a dark season as a pastor, as a lead pastor of a church. I'm the leader. I'm the guy at this church. And it was a small church, but I was the guy. I was preaching every Sunday, leading worship every Sunday, teaching every Wednesday, doing online Bible classes whenever we end, all this stuff. And I am faced with depression. I am faced with anxiety. I'm faced with mourning. And we leaned into the Holy Spirit as hard as I probably ever had. And the Lord poured His Spirit out. The Bible says, ask and you shall receive. Man, I don't know what you're going through this Christmas season. I don't know if it's a good time for you, a hard time for you. I know it's a lot of people lose people during the holidays, and it's hard because, again, the best thing is not the gifts. The best thing is family and spending with people we love. And I know it may be difficult for some of you. It's going to be difficult. I'm sure I'm going to have a moment this holiday season again where I just miss my friend. But I have to remind myself that the Holy Spirit is close to me, and the gift of salvation. Again, I don't have this grand before Christ testimony, but after Christ, dude, knowing that I can walk through what I've walked through here's the key word, is with joy in my heart, to look at a guy who murdered my friend. And I can honestly tell you today, everybody listening to this, that I have forgiven this guy 100%. I pray for his salvation. I don't know where his walk is with the Lord. I know he's going to serve a long time in jail. I pray he meets the Lord somehow, some way. I've got no bitterness. There's no anger there. I'm not mad at God, because I believe that God knows best. And I know that my friend Hannah struggled with a lot of stuff here in this world, and now she doesn't because she's in heaven. And I'm saying all that to say that I am thankful for a relationship with Jesus, that He's not a God who just created us and left us, that He's a God who created us and wants to spend time with us. And I think that's what I love most about Christmas. It's not the gifts, it's not the light, it's not all these things. It's the fact that all of these things remind me of the reason, be cliche, Christianese, the reason for the season is Jesus and Him coming as a baby. And not that just because He came as a baby, it's not necessarily that, although that was the start. It's what that baby grew up to do for us through the cross, which we celebrate on Easter. But I'm also thankful for in Christmas is that the life of Jesus, the death of Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus, and the ability to be with God and be in relationship with God. So for me, man, I know we didn't do the Benjamins. We didn't do it. But if I could put, obviously it's the relationship with God above anything else in my life, above my child. It's my relationship with the Lord is more important than my children, my wife, because I know what it can do for me, what it has done for me. And that's not even talking about the fact that I get eternal life without sickness, death, war, poverty, none of that stuff I don't have to worry about. But even before I even get to that point, like in this life, man, life is amazing and life is great. Even when it's bad days, it's still good when you're walking with Jesus.
Amen. Well, we're going to end the show.
We're finished. We're going to end right here.
No, I super appreciate it, man. I want to say this. I think a lot of times people when Kirk and I are going to get into ours, and the beauty is that none of us share the same testimony, right? And that's really the beauty, to see what God can do in all matters of life. But what's amazing, and sometimes people who don't, maybe grew up in church, right? And it's like, oh, I can't pinpoint the time when I really gave my life, like that. A lot of times they try to discredit that as, well, I don't really have a testimony, right? I don't,
right.
And I just want to encourage, if there is anybody who's listening that says, yeah, I grew up in church, I don't have this Hollywood story, I didn't almost die, and then, I didn't go to jail, and I didn't look. Hallelujah. Right. And that is amazing that God saved you from all of that. Because I wouldn't wish, what I went through in my life on anyone. I wouldn't wish, I know Kirk wouldn't do that with his testimony and things like that. But every sinner who repents is a miracle. That testimony itself is it doesn't matter that it's what it looks like. It's the fact that, that God has given you eternal life, whatever that may look like. Yeah. And it's just, and He loves you so much to do that. So I love it.
Yeah. Come on.
Great testimony. Just awesome stuff. So Kirk, what you got?
Yeah, let me just jump in. Ben, I heard this in ministry school. I had a lot of questions because I came in, I alluded to it. I had not read the Bible. I didn't really know what the heck I was doing. I was going in because I love my church. I wanted to work at my church. I figured this was the steps to go through it, to work at my church, be a part of the church. If I could just be the janitor. And one of the things, I had this testimony that I'll give bits and pieces. We'd probably go another several hours. We could sit here, all three of us, and just kind of shoot over all of this and continue this going on. But there were a couple questions that I asked. One, my first question was, why did I have to go through and do all the things that I did and go be a part of just kind of testing the waters with all the, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or all the things that I did in college and high school, and self-doubt, and the idea that I didn't want to live for a while, or the idea that any of that. And why did I have to go through all that to when there was other folks out there that didn't have to go through that? And it was a very to the point question answered by this, because you can't reach the ones that they're going to reach, and they can't reach the ones you're going to reach.
That's good.
And the second thing was that was brought up in this same conversation was, there were some that said, well, why don't I have this great, immaculate testimony, and I don't get to share that like everybody else? And my instructor stands up and says, let me tell you, for you to make it all the way this far and not have given up already is probably more of a testimony than the guy that was broken that found it.
So good.
And because you could have easily fell to the peer pressures that they did. Yeah. And you battled through the whole time and stuck to your guns. And you have a different, separate testimony that you can preach and teach and talk and give and speak. And so let me jump into mine. The greatest gift that was ever given to me, honestly, is, it's 2022, right? And so 11 years ago, I got sober. 11 years ago, I got sober. My wife got sober. But a few years prior to that, 2008, my wife and I got married, and we got married on kind of weird pretenses, if you would. We loved each other. We loved spending time together. We lived together before getting married. Several of the people wouldn't marry us because we were kind of breaking the Christian idea of the sanctity of marriage. And we actually went to Pastor Doug, our pastor at Journey, prior to us being a part of the church. My wife did, and they kind of was like, no, that's not something that we want to be a part of, and hopefully you can figure it out. And we and long story short, with that portion, we found a guy that was going to marry us at a Methodist church by a Lutheran pastor. My wife was Methodist. I was neither, and now we're none of the above. I was kind of Catholic, raised in a Catholic household that didn't go to church, just claimed to be Catholic, had some priests in the family. And I had identity problems, man. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I wanted to be. I was depressed. I don't know if I was depressed, but I wanted to be the cool kid. I was the geek all the time. Ben, you mentioned being a geek, and I think if we were raised in today's standards, gosh, we would be the coolest kids around. But back in 80s and 90s, being a geek was not cool. Right. There was nothing cool about it. And I had issues with it because I was an athlete, and I played a lot. I was really good at what I did and played ball, and I was a competitor, and I was strong, and I could hit and I could throw, but I was a geek. And I was a nerd. I didn't know how to talk to girls. I fumbled my words. I was weird. I had bowl cut. I had all those things, and I couldn't. I just didn't like my life. And I went to college, and my eyes opened up to the whole thing. Alcohol, drugs, girls, you name it. And I got into some tough things, man. I did all of it. There wasn't something I haven't tried once that was in front of me. If I haven't tried it, it means I never was around it. I probably would have if it was there. And fast forward, this guy marries us, and my wife and I were only together shortly, and there was some infidelity, and my wife and I separated. She wanted a divorce, and I wouldn't really give her the divorce because she wanted to spend time with another guy. I was kind of pseudo dating a girl, trying to get on my life, but it just never worked. And so I was just, for 3 years, I went through kind of just a little bit of heck, and let all this stuff go down. And I couldn't really, I didn't know where to be. I was homicidal, suicidal, genocidal, chasing idols, whatever it may be. And to be honest, the Lord brought me to Journey, and I landed at Journey. My wife and I went to Journey for a little bit together before this all happened, and there was a pastor there. I didn't have my snot boba moment. Like, I didn't fall down and give. I would sneak in I would come in late, Ben, and sneak in the back, kind of drop my kids off late, sneak in the back, so worship would be done, because I felt awkward in worship. I still kind of feel awkward in worship, to be honest. And then I would leave before altar call because I didn't want to have to do anything and go get my kids and get out of there. So I would just catch the message. I find myself sometimes listening to podcasts and only fast forwarding through the worship and not doing the altar call still, just because let's listen to the message. And there was a pastor that interacted with me in the hallway one day and said, "Are you Kirk?" I said, "Yes." I'm gonna move through this quickly. He said, "Are you McKenna's dad?" I said, "Yes." He said, "By the way, I've been reading your comm cards this whole time." I said, "You read that garbage?" Holy moly. I was nervous because I wrote all kinds of stuff there. And he said, "I don't have to read them anymore to know what to pray for." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, I was really worried. I was about to leave the church. Like, he was sitting in his recliner and hearing God's laying down on his heart. Kirk's looking at pornography. Kirk's chasing girls. Kirk's drinking. Kirk's whatever. And I said, "Oh, this is really freaky. I don't know what to do." And he said, "While you're writing down on that comm card every Sunday, your daughter's in children's church praying for you and your wife." And it changed my life. Without those few words, I don't know where I'd be right now. I could be dead. I don't know. We were living a life of just craziness, and I fought for my marriage. About a year and a half later, my wife got sober. I got sober. We all got sober for a stretch of reasons. We got back together, and there was a church service. Rest in peace to my friend Gary. I talked about him a few weeks ago. I took care of Gary. He was a muscular dystrophy. He just passed away recently, and I used to bring him to church, and he would tell me, "Hey, I think you'd be a great pastor." And I'm like, "Are you crazy? Do you know what I've done? Do you know the things I've done, where I've been, whatever?" And long story short, that day I called Brittany after getting him ready and getting him into church. That Sunday morning, I was meeting her at church, and I said, "What do you think if I dropped out of nursing school and I went and worked for the church?" And she said, "We've worked 3 years to get this back together. We're finally okay. And this is what you want to do? You want to drop a bomb on me like this?" And I said, "We're only happy on Sundays. Monday through Saturday, we're fighting the grind. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to whatever. We wake up Sunday morning. It's great. We go to church. I love the people there. You love the people there. We have a great day. We go get lunch, whatever. I want to make every day Sunday, and I'm going to figure out how I can do that."
That's good.
And just sort of decided to drop everything and went to Bible college, summa cum laude, passed. And before I even got out of there, Journey hired me as the Generations pastor. Don't know what the heck I was doing. I pieced together all kinds of things. I stole every message I ever preached. I'm still a terrible reader. Andy, you're talking about reading your Bible. I mean, there's lengths of time there. I'm like, man, I got to get in the Word. There's just, but what I do know is now I teach at a school, and I'm still changing lives, and I kind of handing that gift off to others and mentoring kids, because I see the disconnect that comes without strong parents, strong Christian values, strong people, mentors, and leaders in my life. My parents were great people, but they didn't lead me to church. They didn't lead me to all these amazing things. They didn't lead me to scripture. They didn't lead me I saw what we could play church and still be saved and still go, and that wasn't really true. And I found out that that was all a lie, and how those things work. And so the best gift that ever could have been given to me is a new beginning, a restart. And I don't, Andy, you mentioned it. I don't have all those dates. They weren't that important to me when they were happening, because I was really like just whatever. I was in a whirlwind. I was probably so drugged up on antidepressants and still drinking and whatever. I went to a nut house twice. Or I'm sorry, I went to jail twice, went to a nut house once in the midst of all those 3 years. Like, it was crazy. It was just like my head was spinning. Anyways, long story short, my wife and I are both in ministry. My daughter's in ministry. My middle child is amazing, and she wants to be pretty much in ministry. She leads her softball team as basically the chaplain of the team. My youngest guy, hopefully he wants to be a part of it. I've led many of my friends to church and family. Andy is kind of a little bit of a part of that. And the very first gift I got to give after being in ministry, my dad was terminally ill, and I got to lead him to Christ on his deathbed. And so just it's been a wild ride, and I can't wait to see what the Lord does. And this just shows there's two different people here. And I know Andy's story too, and he's about to share, but you might match up with something Ben's doing. You might match up with something else. You might match up with something that Andy's about to tell us. I mean, it don't matter. I mean,
that's it.
There's one gift, and it's the important one. And without that, this show means nothing. And I would feel terrible if I came on and didn't I'm just a normal guy, man. I just try to live it every day. I try to be okay. There's a pastor title in front of my name sometimes, and I don't always live up to it. And I'm going to tell you, just on my side, if you're kind of in that world and just want to know more and talk with someone that's down to earth and it's not going to throw the Bible in your face and just wants to shoot the breeze with you and say, man, I've been there. I mean, you guys can always reach out to me. So, Andy.
So good.
Well, Ben, that's probably the first time you've ever heard that, and gosh, that's an abbreviated version, but I'm sure you've had some folks kind of like that before.
Man, it just goes to show that Jesus, I mean, it don't matter your backstory. I love that you said you couldn't do this or you couldn't do that because of your backstory. Who cares about that? Jesus gives you that fresh start, man. That's what it's about.
Man, for me, I go back to when I was in, middle school, junior high, things like that. I got picked on a lot, right? And we kind of touched on it. Like, if you were a nerd back in the day, or today, if you were a nerd, you're cool. Back in the day, like, you get beat up. Like this, like, if people found comic books or like action figure, like that just wasn't cool. So I was part of that crowd that, we got made fun of, and, lunch money stolen, all the cliches, right? All of those things that happen. And what happened in that is I started, I instead of just staying true to who I was or whatever, I changed myself, right? I was like, I became that. And you always hear like the people who hurt people, right? And like they become the bullies and things like that. And that happened not necessarily in becoming a bully, but what I did is then I tried to kind of just shift my identity to kind of be more like them and be liked by them. And really, the thing that I struggled with, that's going to be kind of a common chain through all of this, which brought me to the place where I'm at, is this need for like people to accept me, like to not feel rejection, to not feel these types of things. So I started getting into all the wrong things, right? I started drinking, doing drugs, partying. I was in bands. I was, all this kind of stuff happened. And it really, at the time I had a great childhood. Like my parents are together still today. Amazing. We had everything we needed. Everything was great. Like, so there was no hurt in that side of things. It just really, in thinking about it after the fact, that it became, I wanted to be accepted by the people, by peers and people that were around me. So I just started echoing the things that they were doing and copying it. And I started doing all these things. And I was a people pleaser. I was 100% like, that was just who I wanted to be. I wanted to be liked by everyone. And even if I'm being honest, like to this day, like it's a natural, like a struggle that I deal with like, I want to be everybody's best friend and I want all this kind of stuff. And not that that's always a horrible thing, but sometimes we put too much emphasis on what people think about us and we don't really like hold to what Christ is, right? And like, that's the struggle. That's where it kind of comes in. So in that, gotten all this mess, gotten all this stuff. And, you know, my drinking problem became like the only way that I knew to stop was if I passed out, right? Like that was the stopping point. If I physically just couldn't go anymore, right? And it was dangerous. It was bad. It put a big strain on our, my wife and I, our relationship. We were dating at the time. It still was happening early in our marriage. So it really put a strain on that. And I just remember one day, we talk about testimonies and we talk about, you know, like how some people have these amazing Hollywood stories and some don't. Like the Lord just did something that, like, I was delivered completely from the desire to drink, the desire for any of that stuff. Wow. And it didn't come from like a friend of mine having an issue or me going to jail or any of these big things. I started sensing like we need to do something different. And part of it was spurred on by, we found out we were pregnant with our first child, who's now 8 going on 9. And I immediately then, I was still playing in bands. I was still kind of living some of that lifestyle. And I said, we just need to change. I can't do this. I'm not going to be that person. I didn't have a bad childhood, so I wasn't going to be the first person to start that in my family line. And we're just not going to do this. So I started sensing these changes and knowing that we had to change things. And what happened was we actually got reconnected with a good friend of mine who was in bands at the same time, not in the same band with me, who was going to Journey. And he invited us and our family. He kind of knew that we were looking for a church. We were looking for these things. I mentioned earlier, I didn't grow up going to church. So I didn't know what to do. I just knew we needed to make some changes. And I figured, hey, church sounds like a good change to make, right? Like that sounds like a good place to go. Started going with him, you know, and his family and everything. And much like you, Kirk, I was reluctant at worship, hands folded, you know, I was too cool, you know, it's like that kind of thing. And I remember one night we had what was called First Wednesday at the time, and it was our worship service on the first Wednesday of every month. And we went there, and I was not the person, again, I'm playing in bands and bars and everybody's drunk and everything, but I was not the person who's raising my hands during worship. I'm not the person singing out loud. I'm not the person doing all this kind of stuff, being emotional during worship. And this one night, I don't know the song, I don't know whatever, but I remember falling down to my knees and just weeping and just like, what the heck is happening? Like, this was not me. This is not something I was going to do because I was so totally reluctant. And at the time I had no idea, but now I know it was just the Holy Spirit, you know, it was God moving in my life. It was this thing, you know, this happening. And I remember from that day forward, just saying, hey, I'm going to take this seriously. We were kind of going to church, doing the church thing for a little while, didn't know what to do. And we took it seriously. And I just remember one of the first, again, this is about the time I'm getting that Bible that I talked about. And I remember one of the first verses that I heard preached or remembered preached was 2 Corinthians 5:17, that if anyone's in Christ, they're a new creation. And I said, I want to be a new creation. I mean, I've jacked things up. I don't want to be doing the things I'm doing. I want to be a new creation. And I just remember that. Fast forward, it was like 2016. I get baptized, you know, and just immediately, like after baptism, I'm like, hey, ministry school. There's a whole big story. We could talk about that, but started going to ministry school. Haven't looked back since. You know, God's opened up some amazing opportunities for me to share my faith and to go out and speak. I just got back from Argentina, getting that opportunity, working at the church full time, being able to lead youth ministry, all of this stuff that if you'd have told me, you know, in 2013 that this was going to happen, I mean, it would have been ridiculous. Like there's no way I would have believed you. So God can do a lot. Obviously, we've shared all of our testimonies and kind of what God's brought us from and what he's brought us through. Listen, I want to encourage you, and this is kind of where we'll end this, but if any of this, if you've stuck through all of this, man, hey, awesome. I'm so glad that you did that. If any of this has jumped out at you and you just have questions and you're like, I don't know if I believe all of this stuff yet, but this is definitely stirring up some questions. Look, reach out. This is what we're here for, right? Reach out to us, do that. But I want to tell you this, find a local church, because there's people who are watching here that I have no contact with outside of them watching the show.
Mm-hmm.
Find a local church, find somebody to connect with, to ask questions, to get plugged into. I mean, what a great time of the season, of the year is Christmas time, to go to church, find a church, get plugged in with it, and ask the questions. Right? Go there with the doubts, go there with the questions, go there with the struggles, go there with the issues that you have, and just see, like you just heard real quickly, what God has done through 3 people here. Like, what can God do in your life? And that's really my encouragement for everyone who's watching today. Go connect with the church.
So good.
And be a part of that.
So good. So good.
Yeah, that's exactly where I want to go with it. It's Christmas. There's not a better time to visit the church. It's not overwhelming. It's not scary. It's something that a lot of people just go on Christmas and Easter. Look, this is a great opportunity to make that excuse to go to church. A lot of us make excuses not to. It's also a good time to invite a friend. It's a good time to just tell someone, hey, look, I'm nervous. You're nervous. Can you go with me? If that's something. Again, it don't matter where you're at in the world, where you're at in the United States, this is an opportunity for you to go and visit. And just let you know that if you're in my area, in the Atlanta area, you can come in. I'll hold a seat open next to me. In Louisiana, I'm sure Ben and Andy would welcome you to their space.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. If you're in the Shreveport area in Louisiana, Gateway Church, come sit with me. Come hang out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, man, it has been a pleasure having you on today, talking about gifts, talking about the most important gift here at the end. Thank you.
So much fun. Thanks for having me, and I can't wait to beat y'all in the fantasy football playoffs.
Well, we'll see what happens, but
we'll see how that goes down. So look, before we get signed off, see you guys next week for the anniversary. Thank you for hanging around. You guys have a Merry Christmas. How do we end this thing, Andy?
This is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4
and nothing more.
Peace.